moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Welcome everyone to Speaking Moistly. Holy cow, things have changed since last week, eh? Wow, so much, so fast. Greg, how are you doing, man? Are you keeping your head down, surviving the cherry blossom tree prohibition?
You know, I'm caffeinated. I'm talking to my friend Mark, so I'm doing good despite being in the most locked down place on the planet right now, here in Ontario.
Right.
But on another note, happy 420, man.
Oh, right, yeah. It is. See, that's every day for me.
You're just vaping. That's every day, bro.
Yeah.
That's every day for Mark.
That's right. I'm the Canadian Snoop Dogg, but I don't rap.
No, man, but things are, I'm doing fine. But the biggest problem is all this news that we're about to go through. And how,
it's a good thing in Canada. We've got cops who stand up and say, no, Doug Ford, we are not going to take all of these powers and use them for evil. We couldn't possibly do that, Doug Ford. Everybody but the OPP, right? Everybody says that about the OPP?
I'm glad at least, even if one person stands up, that makes a big difference. But the fact that a number of people have.
Yeah, that's good. Unfortunately, the behavior of the police officers is another matter altogether. In Gravenhurst, a skate park shows a police and youth in this one. I saw a young man being used. And I saw... Oh,
really?
To describe a 12-year-old. A young man. Well, young man... Right? In the newspaper, that's a little bit different, right? Yeah. So the officer, it's on Instagram. Before you could actually just watch the video. There's an Ezra Levent video here. And I guess I'll play. It's hard to see. But the kid is like off the ground when the officer pushes him. And it's a 12-year-old and a full-grown officer he's armed. He's got his sidearm on. He's got everything on. And he's pushing a 12-year-old because the 12-year-old's at a skate park. Is this about a virus, you think? What is going on?
When you look at this image, the muskokaregion.com image, it's like, this looks like a scene at recess. And it's like, shit, like that kid's getting beat up by some bully or something. And what's so frustrating about this is, although we're so obsessed with COVID all the time, all the rules, all the journalists, all the public officials talk about this, and then something like this happens, and then we get no explanation. There's no follow-up. Yeah. There's no rationalization. And it's like, it's unfortunately, this mantra of health and safety is like, I don't know. It's very it's very lazy, and it's not good. It's not good. It's very Orwellian. It's very like, we pushed your 12-year-old son to the ground for his health and safety.
Yeah. You didn't understand. He made us do this to him by daring to be at the skate park. How dare he? What is he, 12?
Yeah. Or I guess the way to explain it is like, what else will they do for your health and safety?
Good.
They're shoving your kids over, like they're beating up your children for your health and safety.
Yes. Parents. Like parents. Exactly. This is a great question. What will you tolerate for your health and safety? Will you tolerate the police assaulting your children at the skate park for your health and safety, to make sure that all those 80-year-olds who are out skateboarding can be locked in their room by themselves safely? Right?
Well, it's not even about what will you accept for your health and safety. It's like, how far will you go till you question the health and safety? Like, maybe this actually isn't for my health and safety. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. It's such a weak argument that. Anyway,
the health and safety argument. Well, I mean, I think it covers all angles. I think that's why they use it so much, because it covers all angles. You could make a case for staying in your home all the time, and that's more safe or healthy than being out, because you could get into a car accident, you could get hit by a bus. But that's not a healthy, like if you've got an agoraphobic, somebody who's afraid of going outdoors, and you say, you know what, buddy, you're darn right you could have a heart attack out there. It's scary, man. You're probably not going to help him. That's not helpful, right? And that's a disease.
Another sinister term I've heard some people use is it's for the greater good.
Oh my goodness, really? I've got a final solution to tell you about.
I mean, what's the quote? The quote is something like the alibi for tyrants is like being philanthropic and like helping people.
Bill Gates? What?
Well, it's like, it's just like, guys, history books. Let's read up on those history books, guys. Let's read up on those. Let's recognize some patterns here.
Yeah, to put context to my final solution comment, the greater good was used to excuse horrendous atrocities, right? And so, speaking of horrendous atrocities, did you ever think that a kid's birthday party would be raided by the RCMP? I didn't. I certainly didn't.
What happened? Not a year ago, but now it's like...
There we go. Go ahead. In 2019, the idea of the RCMP raiding a kid's birthday party seemed far-fetched. However, welcome to 2021, where it happened. And Dick... I got his name terribly wrong, so I'm not even going to try it. This Twitter guy says, our grandson was sent home by the RCMP from a birthday party, the youngest one's reaction. And then he's interviewing his kid who said, we were at a party and the RCMP came and told us we have to go home. Like, that's a damaging, crazy thing to happen in Canada, right? Welcome to Canada. Yeah. I hope your kid enjoys the birthday party.
I want to see that cops clip. I want to see the cops clip of like the 5-year-old like this. Give me my loot bag. I didn't even get my loot bag, man. This is bullshit.
Bad boys. I loved watching cops when I was like a teen, right? It was 32 seasons. The police are...
This young kid, Timmy, he went to his friend's birthday party. Not today. Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Go! Breach! Okay. Battle lines drawn between Chief Callaghan and MPP Hillier. Apparently, this is confirming that the police are also investigating and the MPP, Randy Hillier, who is vocally against the draconian lockdown measures, more of which we're about to talk about in the next part of the show, the provincial restrictions. But it's wild that just daring to speak out against this is enough to draw the attention and the ire of police. And they're investigating Randy Hillier for breaking the Section 22 orders and going to a rally and speaking at the rally. And Chief Callaghan says, we've commenced an investigation. We've identified some individuals. We will be pursuing charges this week. Lauren Brooker says, does MPP Hillier, did he break the law by speaking at that stage? Chief Callaghan says, he is one of the individuals under investigation. Yes. And I think this is political persecution, misuse of police, just like pushing a 12-year-old over. Like there's no need for any of this. And yet here we are. What do you think, Greg?
I think what really irritates me about this situation is you have people speaking out both sides of their mouth right now, where talking heads on TV and especially on social media, all these like leftists and centrists are coming out and saying, I can't believe these lockdowns. I can't believe it. I mean, Doug Ford, that's ridiculous, Doug Ford. Like, these lockdowns are unacceptable. And then through the other side of their mouth, Randy Hillier is evil and this horrible person. Anybody standing against these lockdowns is unspeakable. Yeah. And it's like, so hold on. Like, you're saying a Randy Hillier talking point, and then you're denouncing Randy Hillier and everybody else who is, speaking up against these lockdowns. Mm-hmm. To me, this is the most enraging thing. And, pay attention, folks, because we are living through history right now.
Oh, yeah.
This is the intense sort of slow progression, and hopefully it gets reversed soon. But this weird double speak, it's happening.
Well, Cam Guthrie did the same thing. I showed it on my show today. I won't find it on the tweets or anything like that. But the other day with the playground thing, art of the deal. I think we got played, right? They'll ask for more than they want, and then they'll settle for interprovincial blocking of travel and probably regional blocks and all sorts of other stuff. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But Art of the Deal, I think we got played. So in the first tweet, Cam Guthrie said, I think this is against our charter. You can't, oh wait, no, it was the police stopping powers. This is against our charter. Our charter has something to say about that. You don't have the right to do this, and we can't police our way out of a pandemic. And then the people who were protesting at City Hall for anti-lockdowns, he's like, fine them. If we have to follow the rules, then these people should be fined. And I was like, did you read the charter, Cam? Like, you just said you reviewed it. Like, what the heck is wrong with you guys?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, you're allowed to complain about the lockdowns, but just don't like organize in any sort of like significant political capacity where you might actually be starting a movement or something like that.
Exactly.
You're allowed to silently complain, or you can even loudly complain. Just don't actually do anything about it, and we'll be fine.
As long as you comply. That's the
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's but it is interesting how that almost is like an operative part of this kind of operation, which is, oh, well, let the people like kind of complain, let them kind of vent, but the second that they actually start to organize politically, shut them down. And I got to say, in the same kind of vein of like this slow progress, slowly we march, what really creeped me out this week is people are saying like, oh, hey, guys, like they're walking it back. They're not going to stop you just when you're outside. Isn't that great? Isn't that like, oh my God, they're so nice to us. Yeah. It's like, I don't know the literature of like, psychological manipulation and like abusive relationships, but there's something in there about this.
Yeah, it's Stalin's.
Go ahead.
It's Stalin's chicken. So with all of his generals around, he picked up a chicken and he plucked the damn thing. Right? He plucked it and took all of its feathers, and the chicken's squawking like crazy. And he puts it down, and then he pulls some grain. Right, a few minutes later, and he offers it to the chicken, and the chicken comes over and pecks the grain. Let it pick him up, and the whole deal. And so. He turned to his generals. And he said, "That's how the public, like that's how you have to treat the public. Like you can do whatever you want to them, as long as you give them a little bit, right? The playgrounds is the same thing, right? They remove they did this big draconian lockdown that they had absolutely no intention of keeping in place. I mean, they walked it back. So it was released by 8 a.m. By 3 p.m. it was repealed, and because nobody listened, nobody was going to listen, right? And they couldn't police it. It would be an absolute catastrophe. They would lose complete. Like it would be a very embarrassing situation if they tried. But they may have tried. New Zealand did it, right? And the pushback has been similar on businesses, and people have been complaining, and they just send their bylaw people around. So what made this different? I think it was the grain. I think it was the grain for the chicken. I think it was we got played, and that was that. And now we've got interprovincial roadblocks and like armed checkpoints between borders. Like, what kind of crazy world do we live in?
Yeah, and I think to add to that, as that progresses, they're going to pluck even more feathers and give even less feed. Yep. And we're going to keep eating it because it's like, oh, they have little bird feed for us. Ooh, ooh, happy hour is going to come back. Ooh, okay. Yeah. I'll do whatever you want. If I can have my daiquiri on a patio, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing how far we've gone from normal and what people are willing to accept as stand-in for normal, right? The new normal.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We don't have to go off on this tangent, but essentially the passport thing, I was chatting with my parents and they're like, oh, well, I can agree with the passport thing. And it's just like, oh, what? Oh, yeah. What? And I explained it to them like, no, this is like going to concerts, like potentially I could go to the point of like opening a bank account or going to get your groceries. And the thing is, like, when you confront like a normie like that, they kind of just go blank. It's the same thing with when you show them any of these videos of a kid, being persecuted. They just kind of go blank and they just kind of like repress it from actually connecting with their conscious mind. And well, I'm going to keep watching my Netflix show because I'm comfortable right now.
But the thing is that, and we've talked about this before, but that represents a loss, right? Like somebody has built their reality around things that they believe. And if you show them that one thing that they believe to be true is not true, then that is not just like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not in a pandemic. You can't just do that. Like people don't work like that. So they're going to reject your crazy, crazy idea and keep intact their reality, because they've built they've other things rely on this thing being true. Because if this thing's not true, they've wasted a year doing X, Y, Z, other things that they could have been. There's much better use of time, right? And so if this is true, somebody has to pay for it, right? Somebody's responsible, and therefore, blah, blah, blah. But that's not going to happen. None of that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. It's like what that defective KGB agent Yuri said. It's like when you get someone so indoctrinated and demoralized, you could show them the concentration camps in their face, and they would still be like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Just show them.
You can show them 100 years of airport data. You can show them 100 years of airport data that's oops, wrong one. Meant to do this one. 100 years of airport data. And show them exactly how much warming there's been in the last 100 years. And I've done it. I've got videos on it. And they look at you and go, that's an interesting theory. It's wild. It's wild. All right, let's get into the border closures. Randy Hillier, am I saying it wrong? I say every last name wrong. Am I saying his last name wrong?
I think it's Hillier. It's Hillier. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Randy Hillier.
Hillier. That's how I read it. Okay. A picture of Ontario's Iron Curtain is emerging. This is a good comparison, if you ask me. But anyway, a picture of Ontario's Iron Curtain is emerging. At our border with Manitoba, we are seeing the permanent pandemic take root, as 3 U.S. states and Atlantic Canada have made the loss of freedom a permanent fixture. Do you remember when Roxham Road was a temporary thing, and now it's a whole border crossing building and everything? The new Iron Curtain in Ontario keeps expanding. The borders are now closed with Quebec as OPP officers reject their oath to uphold our Constitution. And I'll show you this before you and I start talking about this, Greg. Armed checkpoints appear along Ontario-Manitoba border. We saw that just a minute ago. And here is border checkpoints in effect this morning in Ottawa. People are having their papers checked as they drive through. Massive backups, highway backups, traffic jams. Same in Quebec because of these border crossings. And same in BC. BC is even limiting it. They're not allowing travel outside of their health unit. So, holy smoke, you can't go anywhere. You're here. Unless you're flying out, you're not leaving. You're not leaving Ontario. What do you think?
What comes to mind, honestly, is when it comes to Canada as a nation that's part of the United Nations, you got to think that, Canada is this large landmass. Things are really spread out, and controlling the people in that country, in Canada, there's a lot more obstacles because there is like a lot of open land. So it's like, I kind of just think of it from that perspective right away. Like if I'm the UN, if I'm trying to like subdue and control all of the people in this country of Canada, it's like, man, there's a lot of work to do because there are these big open provinces. So we have to start really kind of like pushing it and really reminding people that you guys are just serfs. You guys are just slaves. We really gotta send that message to them. That is honestly how I see this type of stuff now. Yeah. I don't know how else to rationalize it. Yeah. Other than there's some people who are obsessed with just trying to control every part of our lives.
Yeah, the thing that sticks out to me is the fact that the 2030 agenda talks about limiting people's mobility to like 5 kilometers of their house or whatever, and doing that in order to, world sustainability and all those buzzwords that you've heard from the global agenda, the sustainable agenda, and I think that it would be a really hard sell the way it was sold up until now. But now they've scared the bejesus out of everyone. And everybody's like, yeah, please make everybody stay in their health unit because we couldn't possibly control a disease any other way. It's not like human immunity is a thing. It's not like we have built-in systems that are meant to deal with this specific thing, and shutting down our economy is much more difficult than fighting or than allowing our immune system to work. So it seems that such a departure, it shouldn't be such an easy sell, but it seems so easy. People are like, sign me up. Keep those people where they belong, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the fear is a huge part of this. I was even like listening to CP24 this morning, and I heard this, like they were talking about, we're going to talk about fertility and COVID-19. and like, you know, they're talking about this specific topic, and then they're like, yeah, there's a lot of like, you know, pregnant moms who are struggling with COVID-19 in the hospital right now, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, well, wait, hold on. Like, can we fact check that?
Yeah.
Like,
how
really?
many?
There's a bunch of pregnant
hospitals?
moms with COVID. Like, if the fact that they just threw that in there, as a matter of fact, kept going.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, huh. And I'm not saying like, oh, like they're lying, they're making crap up, but it's like, you know,
there's no chance.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Like,
yeah. Well, there's no chance to even check it. Sorry, don't mean to talk.
But my point was, yeah, I think the fear porn plays a huge. The news media plays a huge role, because they're starting to be more compliant and gullible, quite frankly.
Oh,
gullible.
the news, they're driving it. They're in the driver's seat. They're gullible. Yeah, that's the audience, man. That's the audience.
We've made this comparison before, but I think it is important to kind of recognize how we got here, and the way in which climate change anxiety has turned people into these. I want you to panic, and it's made like turn these people into these irrational sort of. Well, we just need to do it for climate. Mm-hmm. And now we have the same thing with COVID. And well, we just need to do it to save lives. Yeah, and of course, because it's this invisible, everywhere, could kill anyone virus, the irrationality is just like off the charts.
Yeah, and I mean, how do you like? I've talked about accountability before, and when you've got people who are literally panicking, who are doing. And the government ads are made to get people to panic. They're designed to get people to panic.
Yeah.
They like going to a party, and then you hear the beep, beep, beep of the hospital thing.
My.
What the?
Yeah.
And the COVID monster.
Yeah, the one from Alberta, right? The Alberta propaganda, where it's like this monster from like a 1980s like horror film, like a shitty like plaster thing, but it still looks terrifying. We're not trying to scare you with propaganda, but you know, if your kid watches this, they'll probably be kind of traumatized,
terrified,
like low key traumatized.
Low key, I don't know. I remember. Do you remember the
high
robot?
Key,
yeah. Do you remember the robot that could lose its arm? I'm
of course.
Roby, the robot. I can do this. You can't. That thing terrified me. What's the COVID?
I can put my arm back on.
Yeah, that's it. You can't.
Absolutely, I remember that.
I'm pretty.
That's a great point. That's a great point, actually. like we have 4K televisions, putting them in front of like kids. It's like, you know how easy it is to scar a child?
Yeah.
Like, you know how easy it is
putting masks on them, just as awful abuse. Awful abuse. Okay, let's finish this off. The science table, the advisors to the premier, they want these restrictions right in Ontario. They don't just want the Manitoba and Quebec restrictions, despite the fact that planes are late. And reminder, like, I don't want to shut down travel. I want everybody to be free. That's what I want. I don't want to shut down the airports. I want everybody to be free. But these people are asking for further regional restrictions, right? Regional travel restrictions would have been smart a year ago, but it would have been smart at the beginning of wave 2. They would have been smart at the beginning of wave 3, and they would still be smart now, says one doctor, Dalla. And Fissman says, controversial take. I would not have a problem with using legal tools to enforce a meaningful restriction of movement that saves lives in a public health emergency. Would we be able to put the science table and keep them in their homes for the duration of the rest of this, so they can feel safe and the rest of us can get on with our lives? I have a huge problem with police powers being used to enforce lockdown theater. Seems so do most police forces. So he's saying that they didn't do the lockdowns right, and if they just have one more chance, they'll do it right next time. So the 4th one and the 5th one, and maybe even the 6th one, maybe then we'll stop after the 6th lockdown.
Yeah. So are these people from this? Are these people from the science table? These two?
Fissman definitely is. I think Ifran Dalla is a science table, or one of the. He's an advisor of some kind, or he's one of the people who is on the media circuit. He's often quoted in things in articles. Yeah,
I think the main what's the word, corruption, or the thing that's wrong with this whole COVID response is the fact that it's like out of this singular silo of public health. Like, public health is public. We must talk to the public health person before we do anything. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to emergency response, I've been doing a lot of research on this because I want to know the facts. But essentially, when it comes to emergency response, we have these things called emergency management operations, or there's one in every single province and territory, and they're.
I saw the Parks and Rec on that.
Oh, what, like the Parks and Rec episode?
Yeah, there's a Parks and Rec where there's an emergency and they have the emergency plan and they have to go through it and everybody's like they don't have their cell phones because there's the emergency. Yeah, I watched that Parks and
Right,
Rec.
right, but it's these emergency management like operations. They utilize different resources, different industries, and it's all kind of like coordinated in that sense. And right now with COVID this whole year, it's just been, okay, public health is going to determine everything.
Yeah.
And everyone's just waiting to hear back from public health. And public health is like the new, it doesn't make sense. It's a very like top down approach. And I really think medical tyranny is really a good term that people have been using.
Yep.
Because the whole thing is so weird, right? It's like, oh, well, this one medical professional is going to determine our freedoms now.
Yeah.
And they have a lab coat on. So health and safety. So like that's theater really.
Yeah. There's two things. The COVID, the high priests of COVID, right? So the health people, you can't question. Doug Ford said, you may as well tie a noose around your neck rather than question your medical health officer. Otherwise you're done. You're done, right? So these are the high priests of COVID. You cannot question these people. And if you do, you're done. Did you ever see The Road to El Dorado? You ever see that movie?
That was like a Disney movie, right?
It was no, it was like, it was a competing firm, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It was animated and it was good, but the Jekyll Khan was the evil high priest, and his like what he said went. And if he said, we have to throw all this silver in the river there to save us from this thing that the gods are going to be mad, then everybody would do that. And it wasn't like we could all question it. The gods had spoken through Jekyll Khan. And it's a similar thing with the medical officers of health. The gods have spoken. The playgrounds must be closed. Well, where's the science? Oh, are you questioning us? Do you want grandma to die? Hold on a second. The gods are going to be angry here, right? Like, this is the same thing. And it's a very, I think that it's dangerous, the medical tyranny that we have slipped into. But I think there's a lot of religious flags, religious markings on it. And
for sure.
There's nothing that, like, you can't talk sense to this. Like, it's a complete, either you're with us or you want to kill grandma. Right, like
it's so we've talked about this before, but it's totally perverted the conversation around health. Health has nothing to do with vitamin C, vitamin D, taking zinc. How overweight are you? Are you eating properly? Sleep, like all this health stuff. It's been reduced to, well, we need to restrict people's freedoms. That's how we stay healthy. Yeah. You know what? We need to wear masks and get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Those are the only metrics of your health.
When has there been another time in human history where the capacity of the ICU dictated the population's freedom status? Right? Like, could you imagine in the Old West, everybody go home? There's only one bed in the hospital. And the doctor is gone. Like, right? Like, no, everybody would be like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, it is not, this is not a way to deal with the world as we see it. And like these people,
we would have gotten nothing done by that logic. We would have never gotten anything done. Yeah. There would have been no prosperity. No one would have left their home ever.
Yeah. I mean, people built railroads and roadways with dynamite, and like, they were like, you know what? This might not be safe. Like, we're going to light this on fire, and then it's all going to explode. And then we're going to go in there and clean shit up, and then we're going to do it again. Like, this might not be safe, guys. Oh my goodness! Like, did you know somebody could get hurt?
And like, for context, my thinking is, I've only kind of doubled down because I don't know if I told you this, but like a couple of weeks ago, I did get COVID. I didn't get officially tested, but I was hanging out with a friend that I tested positive, and it's like, okay, I had this flu, I got over it, and that's it. It was very much a like, okay, yeah, so we definitely shouldn't have shut down the entire world for this.
Yeah.
And so and it's frustrating too, because speaking of health, that we're also obsessed with health, I've talked to people and they say, oh yeah, my niece got it. She went to the hospital And the hospital was like, oh, well, you're not really that sick, so just go home. And then she went home. It got worse. And then she actually had to go to the hospital apparently because it got worse. And it's like, hold on, are we not even telling people that you can treat yourself at home with vitamin Z, with vitamin C, with
Indeed.
zinc, and like, azithromycin is an antibiotic that apparently works when you use it early on. And
Yeah.
it's like the fact that that's like not like a kind of common sort of common treatment for COVID.
Well,
like
more than that,
a year later.
Yeah, no, it's specifically,
no one's mentioned this stuff.
Yeah, it's mentioned. It's specifically said not that it doesn't work. The people are not allowed to use it. So
Really?
yeah. The Dr. Strauss, Matt Strauss, tweeted it out the other day, I think, and he said, and so did Dr. Patrick Phillips.
You got it.
Dr. Phillips. I'll send it to you.
Send that to me, please.
Yeah. All right. I think that brings us to the end. This whole thing's crazy. This whole thing's nuts, man. Like it's more crazy than my hair. It's nuts. Like
your hair looks good right now.
Oh yeah, it just kind of Christopher Walken on me. I was like, whatever, mess it up.
My hair is going crazy.
I watched that Lion speech is great. It's still fun to watch. The whole world, man. I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know what the next twist and turn in our crazy show is gonna entail. I hope that it is manageable. I hope that sanity reigns. I hope that we get our charter rights recognized again by the government, right? I hope that there's a situation where the people who are in charge are held accountable for the terrible choices they've made. But the more that I think about that, the less likely it is to happen. And I hope that I'm wrong about that, but jeepers, there's a whole lot of things I hope I'm wrong about. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I hear you. I honestly think what I'm scared about is that by the time people realize things are going terribly wrong, that are like our capabilities to mobilize and communicate is going to be already taken away.
Decimated.
And like like the internet, the censorship bill, they're going to be tabling in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be working with some people to start a petition and hopefully make that really pop off over the next week.
It doesn't pass the Oakes test.
Sorry, what's that?
The basic test so in the Canadian Constitution, it says in a free and democratic society, these rights may be limited. But in order to limit those rights, there's a process and a test it's called the Oakes test, OAKES, Oakes. That's a name. So the Oakes test talks about there's four criteria that are laid out within Oakes that must all be satisfied for the violation of charter to be even considered. And that if it passes the Oakes test, then they look at the violation and like the argument. But it doesn't pass Oakes. It doesn't pass. There's no the benefit to society is silencing dissenting voices, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like, don't you see we have to get rid of them?
We're keeping you safe. Yeah,
it's like for your safety. Oh, it's perfect.
Kind of like you kept the folks in the old folks' home safe. That kind of safe.
Well, Stephen Gellibo is a different monster altogether. But goodness gracious. All right, where can they find you, Greg? Any final words as well? Sorry.
No, that's about it. Stay sane, folks. Stay sane.
Yeah.
Focus on yourself. Focus on what you can control, and keep on fighting that fight. We're fighting a spiritual battle here in many senses, and you got to focus on yourself first and foremost, because if you focus on what you can control. You can find me on YouTube, Greg Wycliffe. Find me on Twitter at GDub. Find me on TikTok at GDub. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Always, man. Always. I enjoy our weekly talks. It keeps me sane. And yeah, talk to people who are good for you. And one of the ways that people measure their happiness is their progress towards a goal. So if you find yourself in a rut, give yourself a goal and measure your progress towards it. Right? It's how we measure success. It's how humans measure success. So like if your kids are home and they're doing school and they're not really wowed by it, get them a project to do, something that they're interested in doing. Man, when I was a kid, I loved playing The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past.
Nice.
Yeah, man, it's wonderful.
Nice.
And like I always felt like I was moving towards like a goal. And even though that was fake, I realize now as an adult, like everything's a game, right? And like the real world gamification of life is in setting goals and measuring your movement towards them is really fun too. But it's hard to do that for somebody else. It's hard to do that for like a kid. So help them choose a goal, help them measure it, and help them and get them excited about it, right? And that'll work. And teenagers, like teenagers are some of the best video editors and music mixers. You can learn so much on YouTube, man. Like there's so much out there that sitting and being sad about being locked in is not a good option, especially if you're depressed. Like do something with the time, man.
Yeah. It's always great to have something to look forward to. Absolutely. Yep. And I really recommend reading a book. Yeah. Because these days, just getting away from your phone can just be like a really big win for your mental health and like your emotional state. Mm-hmm. And the old school tactile book, you can feel it, open it up, kind of get lost in a good tale or what have you. Maybe learn about farming at home. Yeah. Maybe read it. Do it yourself.
Not in Canada. Not in
Canada. Helpful.
I was going to say I'm reading Lindsay Shepherd's book, so it's interesting.
How is it?
It's good. It's good so far. But I mean, like, it's not exactly an escape. It's not like I feel so refreshed. I'm like, it was terrible and it's just getting worse.
I just finished The Madness of Crowds by
that's a good one.
By what's his face? Douglas Murray. Kind of a similar nonfiction book where it's like, this is just how insane political correctness insanity is. This is where there's a transgender ideology church in LA basically, and it's really creepy.
Wow. The world is a wild place. All right. That's enough out of us. Thanks for watching, everybody. You can find me at canadapoly.com, at canadareport.co. That's where I've got my scratch pad, all of the things that I'm working on, and at speakingmoistly.co, where I think most of our back catalog is. I got notified that I have to renew the website, so I've got to do that today as well. But anyway, you can check us out there. And thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Happy 420.
Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Oh, what a terrible image.